Welcome in, everybody, to Bear Bets. I'm your host, as you probably have figured out by now, Chris Fallica. Geoff Schwartz will join me shortly, as will Sammy P and Will Hill in the gambling group chat. The final week of the NFL season is upon us, and being that I don't want to speak for Geoff, but I certainly can't make heads or tails of this final week of the regular season. So we brought in the heavy hitters this week. We brought in Danny Parkins, co-host of Breakfast Ball on FS1. Catch that every morning from 8 to 10 Eastern. Danny, we're going to count on you today to actually tell us what the heck's going to happen and go on here in the NFL. I guess the biggest story obviously surrounds the Chiefs, because the Broncos obviously need that win to get into the playoffs. And here we are with a meaningless game for the Chiefs. And they can't sit everyone, but they're sure going to sit everybody they can, aren't they?
They're going to sit everybody that they possibly can, and they should, and they have nothing to play for. And Carson Wentz is a real player. Like, sometimes you get a backup quarterback who is not a real player, like DTR. No, all due respect, that guy should not be in the NFL. Carson Wentz is a real player who will be trying to put real things, like Davis Mills in Houston. That's a real player. So maybe the Chiefs can be frisky, but the Broncos are pretty good. And they are well coached. So to me, it's like you've got a team that's motivated, playing everybody, and well coached. I don't see much of an argument to back Kansas City in this one, because it's not just going to be Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. They're going to sit everybody they possibly can to be sure that they're as healthy as possible, because that's what Andy Reid does. So I don't know how you make the argument for the Chiefs in this one.
I think it's nearly impossible to make an argument for the Chiefs, because here's the thing, guys. They're going to try to win the game. Of course, they're going to game plan to win, but there's little moments when they might back off, right? Like, are they going to have Carson Wentz do a 2-minute drill to end the first half? If they're down 17, let's say, final drive of the game, are they hand the ball off to run the clock out, or are they trying to go for that backdoor cover? I just don't think they're going to do those things, right? There's no need to push the players beyond what you need to just play, not get hurt, get guys reps. And to your point, Dave, like, Carson Wentz is going to want to put out good film. Like, he's going to want to play well. But, like, you can't say everyone. You get 7 guys inactive, so they're going to have the heavy hitters. And then you probably don't want to play Xavier Worthy that much. You probably don't want to play other wide receivers that much, Hollywood Brown. So you're going to have Carson Wentz with backups in. I just don't think they're going to push to try to cover a game or win a game. They're fine with the Broncos getting in. They're fine with the Bengals getting in. I don't understand the argument that they're worried about the Bengals. They're worried about this and that. They don't care. They're the 1 seed. So I think they just play the game. They prepare to win, of course, but in the little moments where they might try to cover, I don't expect them to do that, Bear.
Yeah, I think maybe this number getting to 11 might be a little much. And you mentioned seeding, and we know they're going to have the number 1 seed. And Teddy, one of the things that I think maybe we as bettors in the media maybe make too much of a big deal of is seeding. Like, Sean McVay has already come out and said the rest is more valuable than determining the seeding. But if they were to lose this game, you're going to fall potentially into a 4-5 matchup with the loser of Lions-Vikings. Like, wouldn't you rather host Washington than host the loser of that game? Or am I just making too much of this?
No, that to me is the most fascinating one on the board. And Sean McVay and I normally are very aligned on this. Like, I wouldn't play anyone in the preseason. He doesn't play anyone in the preseason. Before postseason games in the past, like, he's rested guys in week 18. Even when they didn't win that game against the Lions, they lose by 1 point. He thinks that the rest overvalues anything else. And so 9 times out of 10, I'm with him. But because of Minnesota-Detroit and the fact that the 5 seed this year in the NFC is arguably the best team in the NFC, it just might be the team that happens to lose this game, there seems to be a massive difference if you're LA than hosting, like you said, Green Bay or Washington in the 3-6 matchup, than as opposed to having to play Minnesota or Detroit. So I am surprised that McVay, I know he's got injury-prone players and, Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford's older and all that, but I am surprised that he's like, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo and some backups. We don't care. We're happy to play the Detroit Lions in round 1. That feels reckless to me.
The only counter to that is that you're going to get the team off a crippling loss, and you're going to have basically a bye with a fresh, healthy team. Like, I think that the loser of the Vikings-Lions game is in real trouble in the wild card route. Like, that's going to be demoralizing for that team to have to go from potentially the 1 seed. And look, the players are thinking about it, coaches are thinking about it, all the way back to a 5 seed going on the road. So the counter to that is, like, you're going to have a rested Rams team hosting a team who just lost a game on Sunday night that cost them the 1 seed.
Yeah, it certainly is fascinating, and we didn't even get a chance to talk Saquon Barkley and the A's, but we'll do that probably in the Gambling Group Shot later on. But after the break, Jeff, Danny, and I will be back to break down that big game involving Minnesota and Detroit. Back for some more Bet Bets here. Myself, Geoff Schwartz, Danny Parkins, to break down the biggest game of the NFL final regular season weekend. We're going to have to wait till the very end of the night. Vikings at Lions, number 1 seed on the line, maybe comeback player of the year on the line with Sam Darnold. A whole lot of significance in this game. And the Lions right now, there are a couple of 2.5s out there, but mostly Lions 3, a total of 56, which is pretty darn high. But I would say kind of justified, Danny, with what we've seen from that Lions defense over the last few weeks.
No question. I had it at 55.5 when I was trying to do the numbers on the look ahead. I thought this would get all the way up to 58. Good luck to you if you want to bet the under in this game. So I think Detroit is slightly better. If they get Alex Anzalone back, their defensive captain who's led them in tackles each of the last 2 years, it's been a cumulative effect with the Lions defense, with Hutchinson and McNeil and all the guys on IR, but he's the guy that wears the green dot. He's their defensive play caller. If he plays, I think that's massive for Detroit. They're so battle tested. They beat Minnesota earlier this year. They obviously only lost by 3 in the NFC Championship game last year. They're at home. So these teams are very close. Minnesota's much better than I and everybody thought they were going to be, but I still do give the edge in this spot to a banged up Lions team.
Hi, guys. I think I like the Vikings in this spot, and part of it is a little bit of maybe my own personal bias on how Dan Campbell handled Monday Night Football. You have a Vikings team
and your purple shirt, and you being a former Viking, of course, right?
The purple is unfortunate I have to wear today, but it is what it is. I really do worry about the Lions. They play a lot of football. They had a Monday Night Football game that was physically taxing the 49ers on a Monday night. They flew back home. They played all their starters. They have a short week now to get ready for a Vikings team that is really good, that matches talent with them, and have a defense that can't stop anyone. Like these are my concerns about the Lions in this game. And when you look at what the Vikings can do, and they've shown it all season long, one thing that I think is important here is every time sort of you think to yourself, you know what, is Sam Darnold the guy? He becomes the guy in that game, right? He punches back. When there's a moment when you're like, okay, well, they need Darnold, he makes those plays. And I think now it's time to just maybe drop any sort of preconceived ideas you had about him. He keeps proving each and every week he's the guy. You look at Jefferson, the offensive line, the run game, what the defense can do. I think right now they're a better team because the Lions defense is not any good. And again, I really do take into consideration the short rest the Lions have here, guys. It's not only that they played Monday Night Football. They had to fly back to get home Tuesday a.m. Tuesday's wiped out now. The Vikings were sitting at home. Like, it's not a long travel to Detroit. So I just like the Vikings better as they come into this game than the Lions.
And the loser, of course, does fall to the 5 seed, and we'll see ultimately how that would impact their playoff run. You mentioned Sam Darnold, and Danny, where do you stand on the whole Darnold phenomenon? The Vikings obviously going to have to make a decision on him at the end of the year, knowing that they drafted J.J. McCarthy to be the quarterback of the future. And it's interesting, too, in terms of the AP comeback player of the year voting. Like, they came out early in the year and kind of eliminated, like, you had a bad season, yet you can't win comeback player of the year award. And they've kind of reversed track this week and saying, go ahead and vote for who you want to vote for. Like, does that kind of show a little bit of a tell that Darnold's probably going to win this comeback player of the year award?
It does, because like the traditional guys, you'd say, oh, this is Kirk Cousins award, or this is, an Aaron Rodgers award. And what, are you really going to give it to Burrow again?
J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah. J.K. Dobbins, right. But like Sam Darnold, he's not going to win MVP. It feels like he should win something. So I do think that he's going to win comeback player of the year, but also Kevin O'Connell for coach of the year. I know it's over. He will win that award. He checks every box for that in terms of overachieving preseason expectations and what he's done with Sam Darnold. So I don't think they're turning their back on Darnold after this unbelievable season that he's had. And if they trade J.J. McCarthy and he never plays a game for them, we've never seen that before. A team trade up, draft a quarterback in the first round, and then he gets 0 games played with the team that drafted him. That would just be insane. But yeah, I do think that Sam Darnold will get the comeback player of the year hardware because he deserves something for this season.
Absolutely, he probably will. But again, guys, I sort of always defer that coming back from being bad has not really comeback player of the year.
I agree.
It's always been injury related.
Right.
And obviously it's moved over the last couple of years and they put out that notice, right? Like we're old, but you're right about Burrow though. Like, can you have comeback player of the year twice in your first 7 years? I think that's not a thing you want. So I think Darnold, with the way he's played this year, to Danny's point, you got to give him something for this year. He's not going to win offensive player of the year. That's going to Barkley. He's not winning MVP, even though I would argue if he plays well this weekend, I think there's going to be some voters that give him a little bit of shiny, right? You can vote 1 through 5 now, not just 1, which it used to be. Darnold's had a great season. And if they go 15-2 and have the 1 seed, traditionally the quarterback of the team with the 1 seed is the MVP guy. So he won't win the MVP, but it's worth discussing along with Allen and Jackson for that award. But yes, comeback player of the year feels like just an award to give him to acknowledge that you had a great season. He didn't come back for anything. Coming back from not being good, to me, doesn't mean you're comeback player of the year.
Yeah, I think the tea leaves are being read here, at least by me. I remember when they announced this criteria, I was like, oh, Joe Burrow, I got him at plus 470. He was to be a comeback player of the year. And now this morning I read this and I'm like, ugh. Great, wonderful. So much for that great closing line value, which it never seems to go well. Danny, appreciate you. We got to do this more often. We got to be a guest on your show every now and then. Fun talking to you. Appreciate you stopping by. Remember to check out Breakfast Ball every morning, 8 to 10. Have a great weekend. When we'll talk to you guys soon. So we've gotten Danny's thoughts on the big game Sunday night between the Vikings and the Lions. Now we're gonna get the thoughts of our gambling group chat friends, Sammy P and Will Hill, back again to join Jeff and myself. You don't want to say it's really the only game that matters because there are some seeding things and some other things that potentially determine the playoffs, but clearly the biggest game of the week involves your Minnesota Vikings, Will Hill, who currently 2.5 or a 3-point favorite, depending on where you are looking. Jeff and myself, and certainly kind of feel like the Vikings are the right side here. What say you?
Yeah, I mentioned the Vikings like a month ago, 11-1 to be the 1 seed, and I was scolded. I was mocked. Jeff called me a homer. I think John Murray called me a homer. So I kept those receipts for sure. I kind of like the Vikings too. I just think their defense is more capable of getting stops. I mean, San Francisco, the game got away from late Monday, and you could say maybe they were running, vanilla schemes defensively. San Fran marched the ball up and down the field. Their defense has been horrendous the last month of the season. And Minnesota, I just think is more, I'll put it this way. The Detroit defense is going to be the worst unit of the 4 Sunday night. And look, it's going to come down to a turnover. Who makes the first mistake? It's almost going to be like a tennis match. You just got to hold serve and keep scoring. I know it's a high total. I want no part of the under. Sometimes with these high totals, I think the props are the best way to attack it. They're not up yet, but maybe under punts because, look, we know Campbell goes for it. O'Connell's aggressive, and he was certainly aggressive putting Green Bay away the other day. So under punts might be a good way to look. Under shortest touchdown, they usually list that at 1.5 just because, hey, if you're going to have a bunch of touchdowns, chances are you're going to get, a flag in the end zone or one 1-yard touchdown. So under for shortest touchdown might be a way to go. But I lean towards Minnesota actually winning the game here, Sammy.
I was at a concert Monday night, and I got a text that
I don't care about your text. Who'd you go see?
Backstreet Boys.
Lake Street Dive in Chicago. Very good band. Very good live. So the first total in Vegas was 52. And I'm like, full steam over. That's not a good number. And then by the time other books started to come up, we were 56 and 56.5. So that 52 on the open was a horrendous number. Did not get involved. Didn't really have good service at a concert. So did not get a piece of that. I'm on Minnesota +3. And I think the one thing to consider, Vikings futures right now, not that there's a lot of value to win the Super Bowl and to win the NFC, but if they are to beat Detroit, what do those numbers go to? They're 9-1 to win the Super Bowl. If they have the number 1 seed, it's not 9. Same thing in the NFC, 4-1 right now at DraftKings. If they beat Detroit and they're the number 1 seed and the NFC goes through Minnesota, what's the NFC price then? It's not 4. Is it 350? Is it 3.25? This would sort of be your last chance to crack Minnesota. If you like them to beat Detroit, it's sort of like the last stop on the way to the station. But those numbers, those 9-1s and 4-1s will not be a thing if they can beat Detroit.
Back streets back. All right.
All right. Sammy, I know you're a four-eyed nerd sometimes on social media. So, but are you in the same boat as me that like the Dan Campbell attitude Monday night makes you want to fade them on Sunday? I feel like me and you, we went hard on social media about Campbell playing his starters. You got a lot of grief for it. I don't know why I didn't, but it does feel like I just don't like the way he handled Monday night. I thought there was an unnecessary amount of play for a lot of his starters. And it's a very short week now to play a Minnesota Vikings team who's at home, that's rested, that's healthier. And maybe I'm being a little bit of my bias here in the fact I didn't like the way he handled that, Sammy. But does that matter to you? Because I know you were vocal about that on social media too.
I can't stand their fans in Detroit. I mean, their fans have given me the most flack over the last 3 years. It's not even close. And I didn't even say anything that bad. I mean, let me see what I actually tweeted. Dan Campbell is keeping his starting quarterback in a meaningless game, and the Simps will defend him no matter what. Period.
Nerd.
They defended him.
Nerd for
no matter. You soft virgin nerd. I'm like, whoa, where is this coming? They're so angry. And then they start telling you.
Only two of those strings are true, by the way.
This is how you win. This is how you win football games. And I went to Football Reference. They haven't won a conference championship since 1957. So it's a fascinating dynamic. I don't like a lot of those Lions fans. And if they win the Super Bowl, I will delete my ex, perhaps. I might have to do it.
Week 5 was their bye too, by the way. So they played a lot of football in a long.
I did not understand this. Look, I understand that Dan Campbell is a tough coach. He bites kneecaps, but I actually think he's much smarter.
Wings.
He's much smarter than that, though, right? Like the fourth down, the way they game plan fourth down, the way they use their offense. Like he does smart football things. That's why I thought the way they handled that was not very smart. And his excuses he gave, I thought, were pretty ludicrous. It's not fair. Football's not fair. Backups are backups for a reason. When they get called on to play, you got to be ready to play. It doesn't matter the situation. If Jared Goff got hurt in the first play of the game, the backup quarterback goes in anyways without any reps. The same thing is true if you decide to bench Jared Goff. Like, there's no fair and unfair. It's football. So I thought the excuses were pretty lame for why he played his starters, and I think it will affect them on Sunday.
Well, I was just going before we move on to another game, I wanted you, if you could possibly recite the history of when the road to the Super Bowl goes through Minnesota, because I know that one seed is very important.
Well, you know what? In my Vikings fandom life, they've only played the NFC title game once at home. They've played it 4 times. They got killed in Philly. They got killed in New York, and they should have beaten the Saints in New Orleans. The one they played at home, they were up 7, kicking a chip shot field goal with 2 minutes left, about to put the game away. As we're doing Vikings therapy here. Gary Anderson, who hadn't missed all year, missed a kick. Atlanta ties the game. The play before should have been intercepted. Then with 50 seconds left, the best offense of all time at that point, they take a knee and they go to overtime. There was 56 seconds left. So thanks a lot, Denny Green. That was a tough one. But if you get the game at home, this is like, we know home field doesn't matter as much as it used to. This is one of the home fields that really does matter. The noise, I think if they get the one, I think they'll go to the Super Bowl. If they don't get to the one, I don't know that they even winning a game, because Tampa could beat them. And as much as this is a huge game, everything on the line, very possible these teams play again in 2 weeks.
I actually think the loser of this game, guys, might lose in the wild card round.
I agree.
Because this is such a big drop off from going from having the 1 seed. Everyone in the building knows it. The players know it. The coaches know it. And it seems like you'll probably go play the Rams, because the Rams are sitting everyone, and Tampa Bay has to win. So I would imagine Tampa Bay wins. That means the Rams are now the 4 seed. And, it's not the same as going to play Tampa, in my opinion, but you're playing a rested Rams teams on the road after, again, a big emotional loss. And, Detroit and Minnesota are better than the Rams, but that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about having to play this game after you lose the 1 seed. So, and you're right, Will, they might play again in 2 weeks, right? Because if you beat the 4 and you're the highest, the lowest seed remaining, you go again and play the 1 seed. So as far as like who wins the NFC, I'm with you. Whoever wins the 1 seed is winning the conference, because the advantage of playing at home for the Lions and Vikings is the noise, which really is more of a Vikings thing, but also a dome team playing inside. Don't have to go to Philly. Like, I would take Philly if they had the 1 seed because of those factors, right? You got Jared Goff outside who's been better. You got Sam Darnold outside. So I do think, Sammy, the winner of this game does win the NFC. As you mentioned earlier, if you like the Vikings to win this game, look at Vikings futures.
Just don't let it come down to a field goal. We've seen it enough. Gary Anderson, Blair Walsh.
Yes.
I'm watching Reichert kick against the Packers.
Yeah,
thinking,
great point.
Oh, God. Do not let it come down to it. And I texted a couple of my Vikings guys, no field goals in the playoffs.
Yes.
No, we're going for it, Bear. Do not put it on the right foot of another kicker.
That's a good point, because he's been great all year, but he was bad against the Packers. He missed 2 and he missed a third, but they got bailed out by an offside, and I didn't get to see a good replay whether it was a legitimate call or not. But yeah, that's a good point where he's been solid all year. Not so solid the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, 98 should have been Jets Vikings in the Super Bowl. Oh. So we both, one of us would have had a chance to end our misery that year, but we were robbed of that game. Maybe we'll get Bills Eagles or Bills Lions this year and get a similar therapeutic Super Bowl. I guess not even really therapeutic. That would be a disaster for both of those fan bases.
That game would end in a tie. The world would end.
The loser of that game would just be. I mean, forget it. I mean, they may not wake up for days. They'd be so dejected. But not moving on, but I guess maybe Back to the Future kind of deal with this week, Saturday, Bengals Steelers. Bengals still holding on to the slim hope of potentially getting to the playoffs. I mean, we've seen this line kind of bounce around all over the place. Right now, we're looking at Cincinnati. -1.5, pretty much everywhere, a total of 48. I have a hard. I mean, everyone's going to be on Cincinnati, thinking that they'll automatically win because they need a win and they need some help to get it, and they'll try and pad Burrow and chase his stats to get there. So I'm not going to play this game. I guess the question I have, Jeff, maybe is what can the Steelers do to kind of build some confidence or get the mojo back going into the playoffs, because they have not looked like the same team. Is there maybe a situation here where they get Justin Fields more involved to try and maybe spark him and spark the offense? Is this basically a kind of a practice game for the Steelers, knowing that they're going to probably wind up playing Houston in that first round?
Well, the Steelers, they want to win this game, right? If you lose this game, you become the 6th seed possibly, and you go to Baltimore, right? Which is not what Pittsburgh wants to do. So they're going to try to win this game, I would imagine. The Bengals defense is bad. It's better lately, but it's still bad. I mean, you look at what the Steelers did the first time around. I would imagine they hope offensively to do that. The problem is the Bengals, I get it, are playing good ball right now. Can we retire the phrase, by the way, no one wants to see this team in the postseason? The Bengals defense is terrible. All the playoff teams want to see them in the postseason. Of course, Burrow's having a great year. Chase is going to no one wants to see the Rams in the postseason. Why not? I don't understand the teams that become these don't want to see them in the postseason teams. Whoever wins the Super Bowl with it, don't ever want to see them in the no one ever does. So I think you just say, look, man, let's get back to basics. Look, Warren has to play more on offense. He's much better than Najee Harris. So Warren, I love Warren props every week. Longest receptions, typically 11.5 yards. He always catches the ball and gets upfield. And Pickens has got to be more part of the offense. Pickens disappeared against Kansas City. So you have a long rest here, Sammy, in this game for Pittsburgh. It matters for both teams. Bengals got to win to stay alive. They lose, they're out immediately. I think the funniest outcome, by the way, is the Chiefs win and the Dolphins win. The Dolphins are in the postseason. The Bengals are out. That feels like the funniest thing to happen.
That wouldn't be good for me. I had a big Dolphins, no playoffs.
But
that would be fun for me.
I mean, the over looks playable in this game, Sammy.
By the way, Sammy, I apologize. I had all my playoff permutation screwed up. I was kind of thinking, from the division standpoint, knowing that the Steelers weren't going to win the division because you're assuming the Ravens are going to win, and I forgot about the whole 4-5 and dropping to 6. So forgive me, Sammy. The table's yours.
Apology accepted, Bear. No big deal. I remember my first year working in Vegas. Humans and I were on the set talking about these teams that must win. At the time, it was week 17. Now it's week 18. And Chris Andrews, Vegas legend, comes on in the next segment. And he goes, I was listening to your guys' last segment. He goes, never forget the golden rule, though. If you must win, you must not be that good.
Right. Correct.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that with Cincinnati and some of these other teams that must win. And let's also, guys, let's pay attention to the money. First number we saw in Vegas, Cincinnati -3. Look at the board now. 1.5s, and ones. So while the public is probably going to bet Cincinnati, the sharp respected money has moved on the Steelers at +3, at +2.5, at +2. Wise guys are on the Steelers here, and the wise guys know if you must win, you must not be that good.
Yeah, I like the Steelers side more than anything, just because it's the spot. You're off a 3-game losing streak. You're off a mini bye here. You got a week and a half rest, so you figure Tomlin, who's a good motivator. Now we can question his game management, and these give up punts have become an epidemic with him. Where 3 weeks in a row he just punts inexplicably. But I think he'll have his guys fired up. There is the motivation. Hey, I'd rather play the Texans than the Ravens. Which, look, if you play the Ravens, forget it. That's a death sentence.
Yep.
From a betting perspective, if you do like Pittsburgh, I think you parlay that with the Raiders. If you like the Bengals, you parlay that with the Chargers, because they're correlated. And these books, some of them will let you parlay it, because if the Steelers win, then the Chargers have nothing to play for against the Raiders. If the Bengals win, vice versa. So you can get a nice, correlated parlay there. I think throwing the Steelers into teasers is not a bad idea, from 1.5 up to 7.5, just because, look, even if Pittsburgh loses with the Cincy defense, Pittsburgh probably keeps this game close. So Steelers and teasers, and then Steelers parlayed, with the Raiders. Not a bad way to approach it, since there is some correlation there.
Speaking of must not be that good, Jeff, the Cleveland Browns, I don't think the over 3.5 is going to get there.
Right.
I mean, I'm in a shitty spot here, because I got a Ravens under 11.5 wins from preseason, and now it's like, do you just? I mean, the money line's massive.
Minus 1,500 money line. You can afford it. Fox pays you well. Minus 1,500 money line.
Yeah. Couple of
joking aside, I mean, nobody wants to lay minus 1,500. How do they possibly?
But they're not. I mean, it's
how many turnovers does it take?
I mean, come on.
You almost laid 1,500 on Texas last night. You guys are fine laying big money on those money lines. Don't pretend.
Yeah, how'd that go?
that you don't.
No
sweat,
so unnecessary. That sweat. I mean, good. But by the way, who on the sideline didn't go up to Sark and say, "Hey, go for 2 to go up 17"? You absolute moron! Like what are they doing? Like, why didn't they go up 17, or at least try to go up 17?
I didn't even think of it at the time, because it was just such an afterthought that Arizona State would even get back in the game. But I do completely agree.
Oh my good, that is such a failure to not put the game out of reach and go up 17.
Yeah, they kind of did everything that you shouldn't do to try and close the game out with the deep pass and not running the ball to kill. It's just a master class in what not to do. And they fortunately did win the game.
Got there though, Bear.
They got there all right. Now we'll see if they can get there at home against Ohio State in the semifinal. Anyway, sorry, but we're laying a big money line with the Ravens to get off the bet. Are we laying 18? I think people are probably just going to say, oh, they're going to let Lamar and go out, play to try and boost his MVP status. But if they're up 17 in this game, you could kind of see it, just them sit everybody that they possibly can in the second half, right?
Yeah, there would probably come a point when they're up, 24-3, 27-3, and I do think they'll be up, 27-3, where they probably either change it, game script, they just hand the ball off, or start to make some substitutions, and hey, let's get ready for next week. Who knows? We might be playing a Saturday playoff game next week, so could be I guess they have the full week playing on the Saturday. But yes, what do you make of Brown's team total here? Because I've looked, maybe some books have it. I mean, anything over 7.5, anything over 7. Can the Browns score a touchdown and get another score? I know I was
going to say 9.5, but I haven't looked either. I was going to say 9.5.
Under.
It's 10.5.
Under.
10.5?
Yep.
Oh.
What book is that?
I believe I'm right.
I can't say those letters on this station right now, but it's 10.5, and then there's an offshore one that has 11.5. So
that is a wager.
I guess the question is, are they really going to kick a field goal?
But you need 4 of them though.
Aren't they just wouldn't they just score 2 touchdowns instead of a field goal?
No.
They're going to lose by 90. Why are you going to kick a field goal? Stefanski's a go for it guy.
I've said this before. Getting 3 points sometimes in a bad football team just feels good. You drive the ball down the field.
Stop it.
That's why coaches do it. I'm telling you why. I've been on 2-14 team, Bear. I lost a game. We kicked a field goal against Pittsburgh. The game that actually has no box score on ESPN.com because it's such a bad football game. Go look it up. Steelers, Panthers, 2010. It was like week 15 on Thursday night. We were down 27-0. Get the field goal after a Steelers fumble, and we recovered. Because it feels good to have some points. I know you guys think I'm crazy. It just feels good to walk off the field and say, I got 3 points. Yes, you might lose 27-3, but you feel good about scoring. So that's why coaches do it. So I can absolutely see a situation when they're down 28-0 and they get the ball and the ball's in the 25. They're like, field goal, come on in and just get 3 points. So you walk off the field and you feel like you scored some points. It happens, Bear. I know you laugh at it. I laugh at it too. I joke about it all the time, but that's why coaches do it.
Let's also bring up one more thing in this game. And despite popular belief that Bear and I are laying big numbers all the time, we do not. Although I did have Texas yesterday, and I did lay a fortune on Jake Paul to beat Mike Tyson. Derrick Henry gets $500,000 if he scores a touchdown in incentives. Derrick Henry to score -210, -215. There's 230, there's 240, there's 250 in the market. I would make a case this should be $3 or higher.
Yeah.
They're
not bad.
They're going to give him
That's acceptable.
a touchdown. They're going to give him the ball inside the 5. They care about these players. They care about their incentives. If he crosses the goal line one time, he gets $500,000 to fund the offseason diet that everybody knows about. He's getting in the end zone. I believe it. And at -210, guys, it's expensive, but it's really not compared to maybe what the price should be.
I like that thought. I'm going to fire that in when we're
write that down
when we're done there. I will. Jeff, write it down in the notebook.
I will. I actually looked it up. There is actually a box score now for that game, believe it or not. I'm actually really excited there is. I'm going to go through this and pick it apart. Sammy, would you parlay the Henry with someone else to score, though? If people feel uncomfortable with that, like, is there another running back you like, or is there something you like this weekend? Like Mike Evans, I don't think he needs a touchdown anymore, but he needs a lot of yards. 85 yards, I think. I think he reaches touchdown incentive already. But yeah, I mean, if you don't like that number being so high, is there anyone you would parlay with, or just let it ride?
No, I just play it. I'm going to play -210. Actually, I should probably play it right now because by the time we post the show, it will not be 210.
Super 6 game of the week presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll have the column coming out later in the week. And the game is Buccaneers-Saints. And obviously the Buccaneers with the win clinch the division, and that will be a nice ticket for Mr. Geoff Schwartz over there. One of the questions obviously going to be in the Super 6, what will the outcome of the Buccaneers-Saints be? Will the Buccaneers win by 14 points or more? And my answer is absolutely going to be yes. Spoiler alert, we're not going to read the column anyway, but we're not going to beat around the bush here. Like what's this Saints team got going for it? Tampa is playing fantastic football. Baker, I mean, everybody, you saw a couple of weeks ago, Bucky Irvin had a huge game last week. Baker just throwing it all over the place. We just talked about the Mike Evans potential incentives, and to beat a dead team walking in the Saints at home to lock up another division title, a hell of a year by the Buccaneers, and we won't even get into what happened Sunday night to allow this game to matter for Tampa. But we talked a couple weeks ago about how Tampa, it might -140 to win the division was probably the way to go entering last week, and it did work out that way, Will.
It sure did. And, I think along the way, Jeff and I have given out some +400 on Tampa, which was about to go down with, but thank you to Raheem Morris. He will be getting a Christmas card next year. My goodness, that was bad. All the things you said are true. Tampa probably going to roll. I can't quite get to 14 here. Maybe you look up and it's 21-0 in the second quarter. You say, hey, the 14 wasn't too much, but I don't know. I feel like these teams that aren't going to the playoffs typically play spoiler better. They know what's at stake. We've had a miserable season. Everyone's gotten hurt, but we can take some solace into, making Tampa work for this. If we could ever pull an upset, that'd be great and ruin Tampa's season, their division rival. So I don't know, maybe they win by 10 or so. If anything, I would take the 14. I just think 14 is expensive here, Sammy.
Can I hop in quickly, Sammy, on this idea of a spoiler team? I think it's sort of a myth. A spoiler team to me is actually like a team like the Panthers. And it didn't happen last weekend because they're so hurt. But it's like a young, hungry team with a new coach. Like, it has a lot to play for. Do you remember the Lions a couple years ago that they beat the Packers? And
that was great. I love the Lions.
It's that type of team. It's not the Saints who can't cover against the Raiders at home. Like, that's the wrong team, I feel like, is a spoiler team. Now, of course, you might say that this week in the facility. Let's spoil their season. But you get down 10-0, that's out the window immediately. So I think just be careful when we use that as a handicap this week. I don't think that actually applies for lots of teams. For the Panthers, I actually think it does. like they're not spoiling the Falcons this weekend, but the fact is, like, Sammy, that's to me not something I use very often when it comes to this sort of week, especially because there really aren't that many instances where I think you could spoil someone's season.
Yeah, we saw Arizona play hard Saturday night. I mean, against the Rams, where they probably could have, should have won that game. So
I just wish the
spoken like
had...
a guy who was on a 2-14 team that kicked the field goal down 27-3.
I looked at 8 minutes left, baby. I don't want to take up too much of the time.
I love hearing this shit.
So this is my third season in Carolina.
Sorry.
We were 2-14, and before every game you convince yourself you're going to win. Doesn't matter who you're playing. You have to do that, right? Like, that's how you prepare each week. This is the one time in my entire career, college, NFL, where we were sitting the night before a game, the offensive line, and we're playing cards. We always play cards before a game, and we were like sort of openly joking about what was going to happen the next day. And our goal for that game, okay, was that Steelers defense 2010 was incredible, right? Like, all the guys that you can name during that era, right?
Super Bowl team.
Yeah, Harrison and Hampton and Kiesel and Ferrier, all those guys, right? Ryan Clark and Ike Taylor, all those, like, incredible defense. They were allowing 66 yards a game rushing. Our goal was to get over that. That was our only goal for the entire game. We got like 74. Jonathan Stewart didn't play, I don't think, that game. D'Angelo Williams was hurt. We had Mike Goodson running the ball for us, and that was our goal. But I've never been in a situation in my career where we were sort of like openly mocking how bad it was going to go the next day. Now, again, we played hard. It wasn't like we didn't play hard, but we were just really, really bad. And they were very good in 2010.
Sammy, do you remember what the hell you were going to say now?
I was going to say I wish I knew the Saints could get me to 14 points, but we were looking over 43. I don't know that I can get there. Now it's 43.5, so I guess there was a little bit of a move up. Last two games, guys, the Saints have 10 points.
Ooh.
They get goosed against Green Bay. They score 10 against Vegas. New Orleans probably going to give up 28, maybe 35, but then you need 10 or 14 from New Orleans, and I think I could put my money in better places. I could just bet more against Dan Campbell.
What's a Ravens-Bucks money line parlay, Barry? I mean, we could take it down a little bit.
With Henry to score.
Well, let's take. I will take a look at that while you guys can break down Jeff's Panthers in Atlanta, and maybe we'll see what Raheem Morris has planned for us this week.
Oh boy,
how are you going to pick 5 this week against the spread? To put
Impossible.
Test? You're just sort of. I mean, the numbers have moved so much too. I mean, Seattle opened up, I think, getting 2 points. And now they're favored by 6 the last I checked, right? I mean, the Rams decided they're playing Garoppolo.
6.5.
It's like a preseason feel with all the line moves and the information. It's not a regular season. I can't remember. I'm sure you guys talked about this before. I can't remember a week 18, week 17, a final week of the season where there was more decided and there was less, drama going in. Usually it's a great week, scoreboard watching, drama, all the scenarios. It's pretty straightforward this year, which is kind of a bummer.
Ravens, Bucks, Henry, by the way. Minus 154.
Wow, that's a good price. Jeff, is it dumb to bet Kansas City plus 10.5 with Wentz?
So I think the only question I have about this, Sammy, is how much do they try to cover the game, if that makes sense? Like, there are going to be moments when it's like, do we push the ball down the field or just run the ball and go home? Like, if they're down 13 points, 14 points in with 3 minutes left and they have the ball, are they running the football and going home, or are they trying to cover, Sammy? Like, that's my only question. If you think this game will be close the entire game, absolutely go for it. But if they have a chance to cover this game at the end, like a backdoor cover, I don't think they're going to push for it because they're not going to play Worthy and Brown if they don't have to, right? So you're going to have a bunch of backup wide receivers in the game with Carson Wentz, and you're going to have no Joe Tooney and probably no Creed Humphrey if you can take him out of the game. And like, you just have these. I just don't trust Carson Wentz. Well,
they're talking about playing the practice squad quarterback too, right?
I have no idea. I don't know what I would imagine. No, but they might say a lot of things. I don't.
I read that whoever the practice squad quarterback was going to.
They have to bring him up probably. Well, they're gonna have to bring him up because Mahomes won't be active, right? So you need enough guys at that position to be active. But I don't know, Sammy. I would stay away probably. 11, it's a lot of points. It gets to 11.
All right, what the hell? What's a Tampa Bay, Denver, Baltimore money line parlay?
Who's going to ruin the parlay this weekend?
Yeah. I mean,
it would be Denver
right?
there for me.
It would be Denver, right?
Yeah, I guess it would be Denver, where they just come out tight and Wentz, dials back the clock to 2017. Boy, if you can't beat Kansas City's backups at home with a chance to go to the playoffs, you don't deserve to go. And I think it would make it more interesting if somehow Cincy got in, but that would also require Miami to lose. So I don't know. I have a hard time getting behind the Chiefs here.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm looking. I don't know if it was Schrager or if it was somebody out there that. Chris Oladokin, I guess would be the. He might get some time there in behind old Carson Wentz.
He has to be active, but his preseason was pretty rough. I don't know how much. This is the time, obviously, to get Wentz a little bit of run to. If Mahomes, which by the way, Mahomes has gotten hurt in 2 playoffs. He got hurt against the Browns and got hurt against the Jacksonville, and they've had Chet Henney come in and save him for a drive or two. So, I think they would like to get Wentz a little bit of quality work in this game at some point.
By the way, how the hell and when did Patrick Surtain go to minus 200 in the defensive player of the year mark? Like didn't he just get burned for the game-winning touchdown against the Bengals last? When did this happen? And is he really going to win?
I admit I don't pay much attention to that market, but when a lot of it's so much tied to team success. We saw that with Wembanyama in the NBA. Pittsburgh's been bad for a month here. They lost 3 games in a row. They haven't been competitive in any of them. I think Watt is paying the price for that, at least in the market. I don't follow that market. I don't have any. I might have a little Watt, actually, a small bet on Watt, but I'm guessing it's tied to the team success or lack of success here recently.
Yeah, so now I'm going to have to eat my Watt plus 425 early in the year.
That sucks.
Yeah, and I know you're going to. I hate myself for doing it. But just because of the awards mark and the AP now coming out and saying, if you want to go ahead, vote for Sam Darnold if you want, we'll count the vote. I had a Burrow plus 470 for comeback player of the year. That one of that FanDuel was offering a cash out. It came to plus 275, I think, on the cash out. I'm like, the tea leaves are kind of lining up though for Darnold. They're basically saying Darnold's not going to win MVP. He's not going to win offensive player of the year. We got to give him something. So I think that's probably where we're headed, that Darnold's going to be comeback player of the year. So I took my I'm not a cash out guy, but I was so pissed reading this morning, along with seeing the Surtain move, that I was in a vulnerable moment, and I decided to take my my plus 270, 275, whatever it was, on my my Burrow comeback player of the year award. So there's my awards rant. I mentioned the Dolphins. I got a no Dolphins, and we talked about that on the pod before the year. No Dolphins to make the playoffs. They're a 1-point favorite over the Jets, which might be playing Aaron Rodgers' final NFL game. Who knows? I did watch the 3-part Enigma series. I really enjoyed episode 1, and I really enjoyed episode 3. Episode 2 was a little kooky because that's a lot of the ayahuasca and all of his off-season stuff. But I talked about going to Egypt in the 3rd episode as well, and I still need to find. I need to get his number. I need to text him and find out where in Egypt he actually went and what he saw, because I'm a big Egypt guy as well. But after what we saw from that Jets offense last week, I mean, I know the Dolphins are beat up as well, and their fate may potentially be sealed by the time this game rolls around. It's hard to even make a case for the Jets, isn't it?
I don't want any part of Miami in the cold, especially it looks like it's going to be Huntley, who actually played pretty well last week, I thought, against Cleveland. But I don't want to sit here and bet the Jets. I haven't bet the Jets in a while. I feel good about it. Easy pass for me, Sam.
The only thing I will say is, do we play? Is the player prop market 1 touchdown for Aaron Rodgers to get to 500? He's mentioned how, or Devontae Adams has mentioned how, he's hurt, but he's playing because he would love to be the guy to catch number 500. Is there something to play there? Maybe, Sammy, like you mentioned with Derrick Henry. Is there a yes/no on Aaron Rodgers to throw a touchdown, or maybe you play Devontae Adams anytime touchdown to maybe hope that he's on the receiving end of that?
I'm just very crushed to hear that Bear's out on ayahuasca. I thought you were a big ayahuasca guy, Bear. I'm not betting this game. I'm sorry. It won't happen. I'll have 3 bets this weekend, if that. I'll have Henry to score a touchdown. I'll have the Vikings on the money line, and I'll find something else. Maybe the Rams, if I could get a 7 against Seattle. That's about it, guys. That's about it.
Sammy, what is the bartender coming in on this weekend? Is this
who
Ravens,
the hell
Bucks?
Knows?
Ravens, Bucks. Crippler's going money line. He's going to money line those. It's going to drop 10 grand to win 100.
I have no idea what that guy's going to do, and he's picking like 60% this year, just throwing favorites at the wall, and they're all sticking.
Ugh.
Commanders, Cowboys, another game. This is an interesting. Jeff, were you going to say something about Jets-Dolphins?
I just don't know how you play these games. Like the Commanders, Cowboys. I mean, the Commanders are you playing for, like, the playoff seeding thing is like, are you playing for playoff seeding? I feel like you should just get everyone healthy and roll. Like, you have to play at some point. You gotta play other teams at some point. If you win, like, just get healthy. Why would you play starters in these situations? It doesn't matter. Yeah, like, I keep seeing this idea of like the Rams should play to have the 3 seeds. You don't have to play the loser of the Vikings and Lions game. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you have to play those teams anyways.
You're subtweeting me right there, because I mentioned that earlier with Danny about, like, I mean, maybe the Rams would want to avoid the loser of that game. Boy, that was you said it without saying it.
I don't understand that mindset, and I think you should just get healthy for the postseason. So, like, are the Commanders going to really try hard in this game because they would rather have the 6 or 7 seed? I don't think they're going to play that way.
It's weird because in this game, like, I think the Commanders will try and win the game. This is interesting because we kind of talked about, like, if the Commanders, like, lose, then potentially they go to Philly, but they played well against Philly. So, like, I don't think they really care one way or another. If you're the 6th, then you're playing either Tampa or the Rams. I guess so. That really, I mean, I don't think the Commanders really care who they play, but I think, like, in a weird way, it affects Green Bay, because I think Green Bay going to Philly, if Green Bay is the 7 and they have to go to Philly, I think that's a bad matchup for them. I've joked about all week, like, we should start, like I mentioned last week, about how it was just a disrespectful line to the Vikings, and they got up big and held on. Like, Green Bay's got to actually beat one of these teams at some point before we start patting them on the back. And I know they played the Eagles in that Brazil game to start the year, but on the road at Philly and that environment, like, if that's their first playoff game, that's a tough deal, I think, for the Packers. So I think in a weird way, the Packers are going to have a half an eye on the outcome here in Dallas.
Yeah, it'd be Dallas or nothing for me, because, look, Washington, great story, and they're probably so excited to just make the playoffs. They're they're so enthusiastic, they don't really care who they play. They're just happy to be there. I would say that, like, you look at Washington, they beat Kenny Pickett, they beat Spencer Rattler, where they needed a 2-point conversion to survive that. They needed a miracle where Raheem Morris and Penix, screw up the clock at the end of that game. You can poke holes in this Washington season here, this late Washington run here, Sammy.
Good luck, whoever's betting this one. Good luck. I wish you all the best. Good luck.
You get whatever you deserve, whatever you get. So are we laying? Maybe do we put a little Packers money line on? I don't know. Like, Packers money line against the Bears. Is that something you'd want to do? I wouldn't. It's funny, Jeff. You were talking about coming up with 5. I know the Bears were awful on Thursday, and just awful. But I actually, in one of the contests, in the Golden Nugget contest, I grabbed 10 with the Bears. I mean, again, am I going to bet this with, like, real money? No, but in a lot of these contests, Bears plus 10 against Green Bay was a play for me.
On those exchange markets, Bears hot, not as real money. You could just bet on Bears plus 10.
Oh, it's not an exchange; it's a Golden Nugget contest, which I don't think I have a shot really at the. I got off to a bad start. And
what is the prize? You get to be, like, chief winning officer of the Golden Nugget. How does that win? Like, what do you get if you win?
Well, I actually heard Action Network made Packers -2. And now it's 10. So maybe there's.
Here we go.
Sorry.
What did you make that game before that was tweeted? What would you make that game?
I was 4.5 Ohio State.
It's 6.5, 6.5 now, right?
Yeah. Well, you gotta bake in the blowout.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because, Sammy, before that tweet came out, like an hour before that, I had texted Chris Andrews at the South Point, and I said Ohio State -6, and he came back and he was like, "Yeah, my numbers kind of say 5," but it was funny because I said to him, I said, I think Ohio State's -6, but my guess is you're going to open it lower and you're going to come back to me and say, I kind of like your number better. And then he came back and he's like, yeah, I say like 5, but they'll bet it to 6 right away. So is that a roundabout way of saying I like your number better? Yeah, I think it is. And then he actually did wind up opening at 6. So, and we've seen the move to 6, 6.5 in pretty much every other book. But yeah, what's the vibe there in Chicago, Sammy? Like, is this a lick the stamps special, and they just go up there and get blown out? Am I gonna have to try and pull my nugget pick back before?
I mean, there are 3 teams. There are 3 teams that are so stupid that I wouldn't be surprised by an outright win. Not to say that Chicago's going to beat Green Bay, but Chicago's so dumb that they might actually fight in this game and try and build momentum for next year. I mean, they're so dumb, guys. Chicago, I circled 3 teams that I thought about: Chicago, Vegas, and the Giants. Like, those
New
are
England's
all 3
trying
teams.
to win. New England's trying to play Drake. New England wants to play Drake May this weekend.
Well, that's
number 4. Yeah.
Insanity, because they have the number 1 pick right now, don't they? Okay,
Yes.
So let's put New England in the stupid bucket too. So Chicago, New England, Vegas, and the Giants. 4 teams that should not try and win are all organizationally dumb enough to maybe win. Wild how we have to think about these things in week 18.
If anything, it'd be Green Bay first half. And you can think about that with a lot of these games where, hey, they play for a half. They look up at the scoreboard and say, we're playing for nothing in the second half. If the scores, cooperate and go accordingly, so maybe we play our guys. So if I was going to get involved with Green Bay, it'd be first half. That's the only way to play it.
Chargers, Raiders, we talked about the game and the impact on the Steelers-Bengals game on Saturday. It's hard. It's hard to project this. We've actually seen this line, I think, climb up to 5.5 from where it was. Again, I got nothing for you here, guys. Like I can't.
Whoa.
I can't play this game, and like Sammy said, the Raiders are a stupid enough organization to go out there and actually play hard and win. Did happen last week, though, so I appreciate them going to New Orleans and getting that win.
Doesn't this matter, though, how Saturday goes? If
Yes.
Steelers win,
Yes, but that's the thing. You can't play. You can't play it before.
Correct.
Unless you
and then
parlay
once
it.
you see the result, then
But even-
the line's going to move accordingly.
But even then,
people
like
can,
even with
and
the
people
parlay,
will.
though.
Yeah, people can, Bear, and they will, actually.
But even
They
a parlay
play.
will. I mean, like I know Harbaugh is he probably plays the starters, but if this game means nothing, I mean, why would Herbert step on the field? I don't understand, because if Pittsburgh wins, the Chargers are the 6th seed, correct? I believe they're locked in the 6th
Yes.
seed.
Yes.
So why? The Dan Campbell excuse I thought was ludicrous. So the backups, Harbaugh might say the same thing, but like you shouldn't play Justin Herbert. You should not play Alt. You should not play Slater. You should not play Mack. You should not play Bosa. Like you should not play any of these guys. Derwin James is all sit. If you watch that game Saturday night and Steelers end up winning that game. So I think as of right now, you just can't bet this game.
Sammy. So let's go to the book of Sammy. Steelers wind up winning, and the game is rendered meaningless. Is this Chargers 1, Chargers 2? I mean, what type of ridiculous move do we see?
Oh, guys, I don't know. I mean, with these, like all these weird scenarios, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and throw a number out just to throw a number out. Like I can give you like a playoff line on a potential playoff game, but what happens if this happens on Saturday and then this has to happen on Sunday? I don't know, because the true numbers aren't true numbers anymore. There's too many variables that pull them one way or the other. So I have no idea. I would hate to be an odds maker in week 18. I would absolutely despise it, because I know they're struggling with it.
Like I have no idea. You could probably say you could even say like Raiders -1 if the game is meaningless on Sunday, and I might actually believe it.
Yeah, no idea.
Crazy.
No idea. And I know I sound like somebody that doesn't care. I just don't know. I have no idea.
But that's fine. I mean, like that's what people need to understand in a week like this. Like you should. I mean, there are better things to bet on than a lot of these games where we have no freaking clue what a number is going to be, what kind of motivation is going to be, and the circumstances of this game. I mean, I guess what Will brought up earlier with the if you can maybe get like a little correlated parlay, that would probably be the best way to attack this.
Yep, that's the only way I'd play is you parlay the Steelers with the Raiders or vice versa, the opposite of those two games.
Seahawks Rams. Again, we talked about this, and Geoff kind of poo-pooed and slapped me and knocked me into the ground, like the former lineman that he is, saying that the Rams should really want to win this game to keep their seed and avoid playing the Lions Vikings loser. But in a way, Geoff, doesn't that kind of show a little bit of confidence in by Sean McVay in his team to be like, okay, fine, we can play with these teams. I mean, they were in the game with these teams earlier in the year. So I mean, does that maybe help his teams? Like, I don't know. I'm just reaching for straws here, and I know I think Geno Smith has some incentive clauses that he's playing for this week as well. So still, I don't know if I want to lay 6.5 with Seattle, who's got nothing going for it other than potentially player incentives.
Yeah, Will just texted me and said he sent me that text thread of all the incentives, and Will bet all of them. He bet every player prop over for that on that incentive tweet list. So just make sure that you guys do that this weekend for all these incentives.
It's subject to change though.
Yeah, yes. Seattle getting to 10 wins, I think, is important for just the psyche of their season, right? I mean, you end 10-7 and you don't make the playoffs. You feel like, okay, we had some misses here and there, but good start for the Michael McDonald era. The Rams are treating this like a preseason game. The Rams don't play the Stars in the preseason. They're going to mail this one in. Look, this number opened like Seattle +2, so it's moved a lot. But if you can get it before it gets to 7, maybe Seattle's still worth playing in this game. A Seattle first half, maybe, if they come out and just say, let's get Geno, throw the ball a little bit, get his incentives and go home. But I do think the Seattle, I should say, probably Sammy is still playable up to 7. I know you said you like Rams maybe +7.
I'd take 7. And also the numbers on Geno, he gets $2 million for 3 incentives. So $2 million a piece. 10 wins for the team, he gets $2 million. If he gets 186 yards through the air, he gets another $2 million. And if he has a career high in completion percentage, he gets another $2 million. So, yes, Geno will be
a lot of short passes on Sunday.
Stay on point in Week 18.
Well, hopefully you guys were able to take something away from that again. Week 18 is a tread carefully, know the meanings for each of these games, know how they all affect each other, know your player incentives. So those might be the way to go instead of these sides. So good luck. Don't give any of the Christmas money and the holiday money back to your bookie's hands. Sammy, Will, appreciate you guys. Happy New Year, and we will be back next week to talk some playoffs and some games that certainly we know will matter.
All right, back from the gambling group chat, Bear. And before we get to our best bets, man, this is a week that is just the hardest in national. We talk about it a lot.
Don't bet.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Listen to Bear bets.
The funniest thing about this week too, by the way, is we get the inevitable thread on social media that just lists like all the players that reach incentives this week if they get certain things to happen to them. But that's not the way the National Football League works, Bear. We don't sit in meetings and say to ourselves, okay, let's get X the ball. Now, if there are milestones like Mike Evans, for example,
yes,
he needs a milestone. But the thing about it though is Tampa's got to win this game first. So if they're up big, do they target Mike Evans late? Yes, but they're not putting a game plan in just for Mike Evans. And so just be careful of these trends, guys. Do not just solely bet on player props this weekend because the trends tell you that X player needs something to happen to them. So just be careful. I know those threads go around on social media, Bear. I just want to give a fair warning before we get to our best bets.
In fairness, Geoff, the Bucs probably could put together a game plan just solely targeting Mike Evans and beat the Saints, don't you think?
Yes, they could do the Jeremiah Smith to Oregon's defense game plan. Just throw the ball to Mike Evans every play.
I was gonna not mention the game during the show, but you went ahead and did it. But I'm gonna be a good friend.
Thank you.
And not mention what happened on the Rose Bowl yesterday.
Nothing happened. It was a great day for football. That's all that happened. That's all I remember. I blacked out about 5 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, not great. All right. Bear, what's your best bet for Week 18? A week that we will find you wagers though, and we have one. We actually have 2. You have 1. I have 1. So let's hear your best bet.
Yeah, I grabbed the Patriots plus 3. It's 2.5. I would still take it if it lands on 3. So be it. I know people are going to yell at me for saying that, but I just think the Patriots really don't care about having the number one pick. They don't need a quarterback. Sure, would they love to be able maybe to draft Travis Hunter number one, but they might be able to draft Travis Hunter 3 or something like that if the quarterbacks go off the board and they have their quarterback. So Buffalo, you're going to start Josh Allen to get his consecutive streak starts going. Then you're going to see Mitch Trubisky. And you're going to not see James Cook. You're probably not going to see Amari Cooper. Like the Buffalo was locked into the 2 seed. Yeah. I think the Patriots, not necessarily incentivized to play, but I don't think the Patriots will tank this game on their home field. So give me New England. Maybe there's still a rogue 3 out there, but Patriots plus 2.5.
Isn't it funny, Bear, how Buffalo's not going to play their starters? Like Allen's not going to play. He'll get a snap in. Right. They're probably not going to play Dawkins and Brown and Cook and all these guys. And the Patriots are a underdog to a backup Bills team. The Giants are underdog to a backup Eagles team that has already said, like, we're not playing Saquon, which, by the way, is the right decision.
Right.
He's in the record books, guys. He has 2,000 yards. And if you play Saquon, you got to play everyone else. You got to play Lane and Jordan Mailata and Jalen Hurts if he's healthy. And Goddard might be coming back. You got to play all these guys and if you play Barkley. So don't play Barkley and don't play everyone else. Like he's in the record books already. Whether he breaks the overall record or not, he rushed for 2,000 yards. So that was the right decision, Bear. So for my best bet, I'm going to go with the one game that feels like it matters, where both teams actually care about winning the game, and take Minnesota Vikings over 27.5 points here against the Lions defense, guys. It's not good. They might get some guys back this weekend, but think about 34 points to the Niners. They're not even 17 to the Bears. Was it 48 in a loss, at 31 to the Packers? Look at this Vikings offense right now. It is rolling. The offensive line has had some injuries, still fine. The running backs, Jefferson, and the way Darnold's throwing the football, maybe they get a defensive stop or a score here and there too, Bear. So I know the total is really high. I'll just focus on what Minnesota can do in this game. Give me Vikings over 27.5 team total here. I just think they're going to score in the 30s.
Yeah, it does feel like a high-scoring game is in the cards, even though I do get a better feeling for Brian Flores and that defense to get some stops more than I do Detroit. So,
oh yeah,
that's all we got for you this week. Appreciate everybody downloading and wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever else. Checking us out on the Bear Bets YouTube channel, on FS1 as well. Been a lot of fun. Appreciate Danny joining us, and as always, Will and Sammy P in the gambling group chat. Tread carefully in the final week of the NFL season. Here's to a good weekend full of winners and avoiding some losers. And remember, the less you bet, the more you lose when you win.